sportsNOLAtv at TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Thanks to our gracious host, Ronnie Bouvier, and the entire crew here at TGI Fridays, where the food's great, the atmosphere is even better. And a pleasant good evening to you, Ken Trahan. sportsNOLAtv coming at you once again. You'll meet our guest panelists in just a few moments, as well as our regulars in the next segment. Kind of an obvious stat, but one that certainly merits consideration when you think about the Saints' success and lack thereof in winning games. Ken Trahan with you. TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie is where we're at, and we hope you'll come and visit TGI Fridays as well. Great menu, great staff, and a wonderful place to have a good meal any time of the day or night. Time now to bring in our panelists. Our regulars, of course, include former New Orleans Saints wide receiver Torrance Small. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Good evening on a sad Monday. We lost our coach and we lost the game.
Wow. Can we quit now? Our other guest panelist, of course, from sportsNOLA.com, Brian L. Walsh. And Brian, I hope you have a better word than that.
How do you follow that?
I don't know, man.
You don't.
All right. Well, it's nice to have you with us. Nonetheless, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And our guest panelist today is another former New Orleans Saint, played in the USFL, and then, of course, played for the Saints and started quite a few games. Played here from 1986 to 1988. Nice job of protecting there for Dave Wilson. Look at that. The end result, a touchdown to Eric Martin. Hey, look, he gets off the ball quick here, too. Oh, just caved that guy in. And that's Dalton Hilliard wearing number 40. Nice job by the big man. One more time. You didn't think we'd find offensive line highlights. Look at him run. He's rumbling, stumbling, bumbling down the field. Hey, look at this. Mays runs right by him. Oh, my.
He lost his oxygen tank.
You talk about a good lead blocker. That's Chuck Comiskey there, running his 5'8" 40. Hey, Chuck, great to have you with us, man.
5.03 if I was a second.
Okay.
Kenny, we would have had, Chuck, we would have had you on earlier, except it took us 5 weeks to find good blocks in the footage.
Oh, man.
That's simply not true.
Yeah.
I would never insult you like that.
Great blocks.
The man has no class. What can I tell you?
Great blocks.
Thank you.
Well, Chuck, the Saints a loser yesterday to Tampa Bay. Very disappointing, obviously. And you and I were kind of talking about it earlier. Bottom line is, I know how you look at games, and I looked at that game the same way. The Saints got their rear ends beat up front on both sides of the ball, didn't they?
I would say yes. It just, I felt like our protection on the pass was real soft. The corners were pushed in. Breeze didn't have a lot of room to read down the field, and on the defensive side, we're still not getting any pressure out of the center of the line. And you know, I mean, how does Will Smith make any money sacking from the outside if you don't flush him out?
Torrance, one of the problems is that the Saints with Greg Williams were blitzing probably, if I had to guess, 60 to 70% of the time, and they still weren't getting there, even though they had Tampa outmanned at the point of attack.
Well, I've been seeing for a while now, we're not executing technique-wise. We're running when they're blitzing, they're trying to run away from the defender instead of filling gaps, filling the passing lane where we can put pressure, pushing your guy back, and everybody's trying to make the play instead of doing their job. And I think that's one of our main problems on defense. The same goes for the cornerbacks and the linebackers. They're supposed to jam the guy to push him outside so the safety can pick him up. They're not getting a jam on the guy. They let them free release, and I think they got 2 deep balls on us because we let them get free release. And those are things we're not doing very well on defense right now.
Brian, through 3 quarters, Drew Brees was the leading rusher for the Saints, 2 carries and 18 yards. No running game whatsoever to speak of outside of Brees scrambled and the 1 touchdown run by Mark Ingram.
Yeah, if you take Drew's 21 yards away, Kenny, they're at 49 yards, I think, or something like that. And, you know, you cannot win football games consistently with that kind of running game. It makes you wonder, why in the world would you draft Mark Ingram at number 28? And why would you give Pierre Thomas a 4-year deal? Why would you bring in Darren Sproles? I mean, you know, in order for this team to reach its goals, Kenny, I think there's no thinking involved here. They're going to have to run the ball more consistently.
Which leads me to this, Chuck. Is the problem running the ball, the running backs, the triple-headed monster, so to speak? Or is it the offensive line, which has seen quite a bit of change with Olin Kreutz at center, and then De La Puente at center, and then Kreutz at center, Stinchcomb out at tackle, and then Zach Strief in, and then Zach Strief out, and Charles Brown in. You're an offensive lineman. Your take.
I mean, my take, you got two of the finest guards in the business, the tandem of those two guys, and we're not able to run the ball. I mean, I'm just thinking we're not getting any push at the tackle position, and some of that is inconsistency due to injury and inexperience, and some of it is just, you got to wonder if they're just getting whipped up front, and what the mindset is entering into each week.
Torrance wide receivers contributing to this loss as well. You have a drop by Meacham, turns into a pick. You can't have that as a wide receiver. A couple of other balls that should have been caught too. The one guy that catches everything is Jimmy Graham.
Yes, we turnovers killed us. The reason why Saints lost is that turnovers. You can't go into a game 4 turnovers and expect to win a game. That's not going to happen, not in this league. But the receivers, I say Graham and Coach, they held up, did great. Both of them had about seven catches each for 100 and some yards. Graham has, 4th game with 100 yards and catching. He's doing a great job, doing a phenomenal job for us. I think he's going to continue on this streak. We didn't get into the receivers till later on in the game, which they started making some catches on that last drive, but it wasn't enough to get us in the end zone.
Brian, this defense really lacks playmakers. You have a guy in Patrick Robinson who clearly has improved and is a guy that's making plays more than anybody else right now. Malcolm Jenkins shows up and makes a few plays to prevent completions, but hasn't made any plays in terms of turnovers. And again, this defense is bereft of playmakers at this point in time.
Kenny, we've beat this fact into the ground, I think, on the show, I know, for a number of weeks, is that they are not making plays. They have 6 takeaways in 6 games, I believe.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
That's not going to get it done. And so you're not helping your offense with field position. You're not putting any points on the board. You're not really making any plays that impact a turnaround for the offense. And until they start doing that, Kenny, they're going to be struggling, because this is not an elite defense.
And Chuck, realistically, when you look at this 4-2 record, Drew Brees saved them with a big rally against Houston at home in the 4th quarter. He also saved them with a big rally at Carolina in the 4th quarter. It looked like he might do it again yesterday. But as you look at this 4-2, it could easily be 2-4.
Yeah, and the other thing that's so disappointing is to have that 3-headed monster you were referring to and not be effective with it. And that just, I mean, it's a crying shame, because it just, I mean, all 3 of those guys on any given team could be a superstar style runner. Yeah. I mean, the industry has changed. You know, the running game is now a 3-yard slant. Passing game, I understand that. You know, I'm old school offensive line, but at some point you have to run the ball and run the ball effectively, and we're just not getting any push on the offensive line right now.
Torrance, obviously, this is a situation where they have packages for every one of these backs. Sean Payton's a great schemer, but it's almost like they're trying to trick people at times. With Ingram in the game, they threw him a little split screen yesterday. You know, with Sproles in the game, they ran the ball wide one time and so forth, rather than putting him in a slot where he's clearly effective. Sometimes you can get a little bit too cute, right?
Yeah. Well, in the NFL, one thing they give us these tendency sheets that we get. And when they come with different packages on defense, we know exactly what they're going to do because of the tendencies. We go with the tendency. And what Sean Payton is trying to do, I think, is trying to throw teams off by doing something a little different. But I think it's at the wrong time. We're getting a little too cute, and it's hurting us instead of trying to fool a team and trying to get them off tendencies so when we play other teams.
And these goal line and red zone situations, Brian, clearly need to improve.
Absolutely. I mean, what were they, 1 of 4 yesterday? And again, and Drew Brees is his biggest critic, and he said it from week 1. They need to do a better job. But yesterday in that that interception on 4th and 2 from the Buccaneers 4, it cost them the game. You know, they need to at least come away with points, and I have no problems with the play selection. With the decision to go for a touchdown. I do have problems with the play selection.
Exactly.
We can get to that a little bit later. But no, they need to punch it across into the end zone there, and they haven't done it effectively all season long.
Yeah, one way or the other, you need to execute in the red zone to score points, in particular touchdowns, and the Saints weren't able to do that and close the deal at Tampa Bay. We'll take a time out here. When we return, we'll take a trip around the NFL. We'll review the NFC South standings and take a look at and talk about some of the more surprising and some of the really special results from this past NFL weekend as sportsNOLAtv continues from TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. That's 3330 Veterans, and we'll return in just a moment. The Saints have allowed opponent running backs to rush for 100 yards in each of the last 2 games. Today's trivia question from sportsNOLAtv: how many 100-yard rushing games did the Saints defense allow in the entire 2010 regular season? Ponder that. Get your guess ready. We'll give you the answer a little bit later on in the show. sportsNOLAtv, TGI Fridays at 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Ken Trahan, Brian Ellie Walsh, Torrance Small, and Chuck Comiskey. And we take a look around the NFC South and the NFC from this past weekend and see what transpired. And obviously we know about the Saints in Tampa Bay, and those 2 teams find themselves tied for first place at 4-2 overall in the South. Of course, the Falcons getting a win to move to 3-3, and Carolina a competitive 1-5, but still not ready for prime time where they are concerned. Brian, the Saints had a chance to take a 2-game lead, didn't take advantage of that. Now they're in a dogfight, and essentially they're a game behind Tampa Bay.
Absolutely, and again, when you play 3 consecutive games on the road, all of us talked about it when they went on this road trip, that it was going to be hard to sweep 3. It's not done very often. Yet they found themselves in a position to do just that. They could have easily won yesterday, and they didn't. So, yeah, it's an impactful loss. It could be one of those losses that continues to trail this team as the season progresses.
Well, some interesting results around the NFL, and let's take a look at all the NFL scores from this past weekend. Atlanta taking care of Carolina, pulling away late. How about San Francisco? They're a one-loss team, and they went into Detroit and won, and the coaches got after each other. Giants over Buffalo, 27-24. The Colts are still winless. They come to New Orleans this weekend, and the Packers, they just won't lose, and the Steelers hung on to beat the Jaguars. Of course, Philadelphia dealing a loss to Washington, doing so on the road. Oakland got a win over Cleveland, but lost their quarterback, Jason Campbell. The Bears, behind Devin Hester and Matt Forte, crushed the hapless Vikings. Baltimore looking good over Houston. And New England on a Tom Brady drive. Imagine that. With time running down, gets New England by Dallas, the Monday Nighter, Miami, and the Jets. Torrance, anything that stands out in your mind from the results of this past weekend?
Yes, Chicago Bears. Jay Cutler did not get sacked. They finally left 7 people in to block. Thank you, Mike, for taking care of my boy, Jay Cutler.
And Chuck, Tom Brady, another drive to win a game in the 4th quarter, and the Packers staying unbeaten regardless of the ungodly uniforms that they wore yesterday. Those are 2 pretty good stories, obviously.
Well, I tell you that the other thing that I took notice of was what is going on in Washington with the quarterback situation. I mean, Rex Grossman, he's our guy. We're going to go with him. Now, you're going to pull him out for Jeff Beck?
Jeff Beck. Where's that 12 string? You know what I mean? Jeff Beck. Pretty good, man. Close anyway. John Beck, same thing. What's the difference, right?
Well, quarterbacks, they're a little
they're all the same anyway, right? Yeah.
They're interchangeable.
When I was blocking, they were. Sure.
Oh, listen, Brian, the Falcons are right back in it. They're 3-3. So, again, they're going to be around. We know that.
Big win, and it's going to set up Atlanta, the Saints, and obviously Tampa Bay, and it was a big win for them at home. They had to do it. They did it. They came back with 17 unanswered points. Yes. So big win.
I think the Baltimore Ravens are a team to watch. They're really good on defense as usual, and they're good enough on offense to make a dent. And I think their season opening win over Pittsburgh made a statement. They stumbled the following week, but they played very good football since that time, and I think they're a prime contender in the AFC as we move forward. As always, we like to hear from fans, and we'll have an opportunity to do so right now as we have our fan question segment here at TGI Fridays. And our fan question brought to you by State Farm Insurance. And here is our first fan question of the evening. State your name and fire away.
My name is Chantel. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Offense and defense. Offense. Why does it seem like Drew Brees is always trying to throw the ball where there's heavy coverage? I mean, what's really going on with that? Defense-wise, does it seem like everybody's trying to stop us all of a sudden? I mean, at first we were just like non-stoppable. Now it seems like everyone's stopping us. What's really up with that?
Okay, Brian, what about Drew Brees and throwing into coverage, allegedly?
Well, Chantel, he does occasionally throw into coverage, but for the most part, he makes as smart of decisions on a regular basis as from a quarterback as there is in the NFL. But you know what? He's human, and he's going to make mistakes. He's going to throw into coverage sometimes, but for the most part, I'll take Drew Brees any day.
And Chuck, with regard to teams adjusting to the Saints defensively, I mean, that's the NFL. They figure out what you're trying to do ultimately.
Well, I think so, and I think you've had teams that are looking at 3 years of great success with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and there are tendencies to develop over time, and I think teams are starting to see some of that and able to focus on it. Now, having said that, I think if they tweak a couple of things, they're going to be still very effective.
Certainly, I think if they tweak a few things, they'll be fine. But the other part of that equation is if you're able to run the ball a little bit, it takes tendencies away, and people have to respect play action. Right now, they're not really respecting play action of the Saints. Certainly not the case in Tampa Bay. All right, here's our next fan question. State your name and fire away.
Hey guys, my name is Matt, and I was just wondering what's the impact long term for a loss against a Tampa Bay team that's not as talented. Obviously, it's a road game, and it's not just a divisional game. But what's the impact for the season for the Saints from this loss?
Torrance, that's yours.
One thing about the NFL, it's a long season, 16 games. You know, you can go, teams go on streaks where they'll win 5 in a row, they'll lose some. One come to mind is the San Diego Chargers. They always start off slow, then they pick it up at the end. Right now, they're doing very well right now. So long season, but these games can come back and hunt you when you lose them and when you're trying to get in the playoffs at the end of the season.
Well, Brian, when you lose a divisional game, it's really like 2 games.
Absolutely, and it makes me think of last year when they lost to the Atlanta Falcons in the Dome. Remember, they hardly had a chance to win it in regulation, and they didn't. And that game continued to follow this team throughout the season. Yes. And this Tampa Bay game has a chance to do the same thing because it won divisional and because it cost them inside the conference as well.
The biggest concern, Chuck, is that you got guys making plays against you that really aren't playmakers. Ernest Graham, Aurelius Ben, Preston Parker. I mean, we're not talking about superstars or even star players here.
Well, and it hurts because those guys are going to be well the next time we play them, and it makes you wonder: are we going to make the adjustment that it takes to stop the running game and stop that passing game? And Torrance and I were talking about off the air about the fact that there doesn't seem to be a lot of jams, and when you play zone coverage, you can't just let those receivers off the line of scrimmage just to run free.
Yes.
And no push inside. You're just not getting much out of Brea Franklin and Sean Rogers, whom you brought in free agency.
No, our front is not doing anything. That's for the run as well as the pass, offense and defense. We're not getting a push at all. But we, as a team, we have to start running the ball more. And the one thing that's catching up with us, teams see film, they know our tendencies. We have to change some things up, but we have to change it up at the right time. I see, as you said, we're doing some things with bringing in the young guy. I just lost my thought.
Cedric
28.
Ellis.
No, 28. Excuse me.
Patrick Robinson.
Oh man, we playing. We got a game here. Nobody knows the running backs in here.
Oh, you're talking about offense. We're talking about defense.
Yeah,
we're talking about defense.
I thought you were talking about defense.
Oh my!
You guys don't know the gentleman.
Of course we know the numbers.
But Mark Ingram, you know, we want to get these guys. In order to get these guys to run, we have to get better up front. We have to get better up front in order to.
They need Comiskey as well.
Yeah, there you go.
I was going to say
Comiskey and Small.
I couldn't see him.
I
was always in front of him, so I never saw him.
When we return in just a moment, we're going to put Mr. Walsh on the hot seat. How much of a difference does the head coach make? Stay tuned. That's coming up next when sportsNOLAtv continues from TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Trivia question from sportsNOLAtv. The Saints have allowed opponent running backs to rush for 100 yards in each of the last 2 games. How many 100-yard rushing games did the Saints defense allow the entire 2010 regular season? And the answer is 3. Frank Gore, Michael Turner, and Ray Rice all ran for 100 yards against the Saints. And of course, Rice did so in a victory, Turner did so in a victory, and Gore did so in a loss out in San Francisco. sportsNOLAtv, TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans in Metairie. And it's our fun segment now where we put Brian Alley Walsh at sportsNOLA.com on the hot seat. And today's hot seat topic is, how much of a difference does a head coach make, especially when he's not there to coach anymore? Brian, you're on the hot seat.
I've said this before and I'll say it again, is that Sean Payton is an excellent play caller. He designs packages for his offense like no other offensive-minded coach in the NFL. But yesterday, he was not the difference in that game. Yes, he missed the final, 55 minutes of action, I guess, with the injury. He spent the rest of the first half on the bench, the second half in the training room, but he wasn't the reason the Saints lost. The reason the Saints lost is because they didn't play good football, either offense, defense, for sure. Shoddy tackling on defense, didn't cover well, couldn't put the pressure on the quarterback that needed to be done. Drew Brees and offense didn't make the plays when needed. So it wasn't Sean Payton, even though he wasn't around, and he's a great play caller. That wasn't. Drew Brees is as good a quarterback as you want on the field. He's a coach on the field.
So, you're saying that because Sean Payton was gone, he's not the problem. He wasn't the problem. He wasn't the cause.
He wasn't the reason for
He wasn't the reason for the loss.
Right.
Okay, I throw this one back at you. Yes, okay. I throw this one back at you.
This is America.
I throw this one back at you. Yes, I did.
Stay between us.
Come on, let's hear. We're gonna throw your own words back at you. Did you or did you not like that last play that we called when Drew Brees threw the interception? Yes. Did you like that play?
No, I did not like that play.
I rest my call. I rest the case.
Did you like the play that there was the last play against Green Bay and Sean Payton was there?
Well, but I don't think you're arguing.
We're talking
apples
about
and
this
oranges.
game.
We're talking about this.
We're talking about this
now.
game.
Well, I'm just saying. I don't think
Bay.
it makes a difference. I don't think he makes a difference.
I think he makes a big difference.
Yes,
a big difference.
All right, give me an example.
The nuances of the game. I give you an example. Right at the end of the game, I guarantee you that the clock management situation with challenging that play.
I will agree with you on that. I will agree with you on that.
I will agree. That's coaching.
I'll agree with you on that.
That's coaching.
And I'm going to tell you another thing.
But wait a minute. Joe Vitt and Greg Williams are former NFL coaches. They're former NFL head coaches.
It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, I just sit there and I played from third grade Catholic Pee Wee till I was 33 years old. I started thinking about it. That never happened to me in my entire career. So I'm telling you, I guarantee you there was players on that sideline that were going,
exactly.
Wow, what's up with Coach? What are we going to do?
Oh, Drew.
And I'm not saying.
Oh, Drew Brees hasn't played quarterback before.
That's
I'm just saying. Look, of all the players you want on your team, wouldn't you rather have Drew Brees? Wouldn't you rather have Drew Brees?
No, we're not talking about who we'd rather have if the coach is not there, but we're talking about the coach. We lost that game. We needed Sean Payton in that game right there in order to win. Like you say, management as well as play calling. You have to understand, not only that, just the rhythm of the game. He keeps us with the rhythm of the game because he's setting up things while he's out there calling plays. So we missed that. We missed those type of things, and I hope he gets better and get back out there. I guess he'll be up in the booth because we're going to need him.
You don't think he had any communication with Pete Carmichael or the sideline at any time?
It's a different deal because he's feeling it, he's seeing it from the sideline right there instantaneously, and he's communicating that. And I guarantee you,
Greg Williams needs to do that.
Off of that.
Well, all he needs to know is down and distance. That's all Sean Payton needs to know is down and distance. Down and distance. Greg Williams needs to know.
Sean Payton's watching how a certain offensive tackle is performing.
Exactly.
And pass blocking, to whether he knows whether Drew's going to be able to get that route off or not. Those kind of nuances you don't have when you don't have Sean Payton on the sideline.
And which defensive backs? Which
so
defensive
what do we
backs
do?
you
You're
want to
going to say the Saints now, they only get half a loss now because Sean Payton wasn't there?
No, a loss is a loss.
Poor Saints. Sean Payton wasn't there.
All right, Coach. You need to hold me back now, all right?
Hey, it's okay for you to keep sliding to your left. But Sean Payton, those guys, we need him in that game. We need him in that game. It was a tight game. had it been not so tight, but at that moment when it's 4th down, should we kick, should we go? I don't mind us going for it, but I think the play selection wasn't great. I didn't like the lineup that we had in there with the fullback. I think we should.
My point is this: is that he's made bad calls on 4th down plays before when he's been there.
True.
All right. Let me have my say now, since I've graciously allowed all three of you to debate this. Yes, the Saints missed Sean Payton, and I think they missed him in dramatic fashion. I would disagree with Brian. I think this was a situation where you're not accustomed to doing something. It happens in the middle of a game. If it happens during the time when a game isn't being played, you have time to prepare for this. It's a lot different scenario. The executive decision maker makes all the difference in the world. This team feeds off of this coach. He breeds confidence in his players because he's a gambler. He'll take chances at any time and run anything in any situation. And they feed off of that. There's no doubt that when they were looking for that executive decision and he wasn't there, that there might have been some cause for pause. With regard to clock management, it was very poor. Obviously, you don't wait to the 2-minute warning to issue that challenge. You could have saved yourself as many as 30 seconds. Now, maybe it's a moot point because you can't get off the field on defense anyway. But the bottom line is, you should not have waited to the 2-minute warning to take that timeout. With regard to the play call, I didn't like it either. As we've talked about guys off camera, Drew Brees is at his best when he has a chance to go through his progressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. How does he do that best? In the pocket, being able to survey. Of course he's not going to see Robert Meacham on the opposite side of the field because you got him booting right. And you're condensing an already short field to make it even shorter and smaller, and your options and your windows become that much smaller. That's not his strength. And then, of course, the play fake. Are you kidding me? Who are you kidding in that situation with a play fake? You haven't been able to run the ball any good all day long. Who are you kidding putting Gilmore in the game in that situation to give you the subterfuge of a run? We all know you're not running the ball, and we know you're not throwing the ball to him. So again, the personnel, the play call, it's an easy second guess, but I think Sean Payton does make a difference. I didn't like the call against Green Bay either, but by and large, that's a different situation in a different place in a different game. But here's the deal. Payton's a brilliant strategist. He's a great play caller. No one would dispute that. But I think more than anything else, it's the intangible. It's the fact that this team feeds off of him, guys. Clearly, they reflect him, his brash nature, his confidence. Clearly, they feed off of that. They live that way. They function that way. And I do think it made quite a difference overall, Brian.
Thank you, Judge.
Well, I disagree.
Thank goodness.
And that's perfectly fine.
Thank goodness there's some
Perfectly fine.
level-headedness on this panel.
Thank you, Judge.
Hey, listen, he's still a good guy. It's okay, all right? We still endorse him. We
know
hope
what?
you read his stuff at sportsNOLA.com.
Yes.
But, all right, from an offensive standpoint, I do buy into your theory, all three-year-old series.
Okay.
But again, he wasn't on the field when it came from defense. It wasn't on the when they couldn't make 4th downs, 3rd downs. So all those things.
Listen.
He's a big.
He is. He's a big loss.
He's a big loss.
But it's a team loss, no question about
Yes.
it. Look, it was a total breakdown. They deserved to lose the game. They almost stole it, but they deserved to lose. The outcome ended up as it should have been. We'll take a timeout here. When we continue in just a moment, we'll take a look at the LSU Tigers, the #1 team in the land. That's according to the BCS, folks. We'll also talk about the debacle that Tulane suffered through, and we'll have our Prep Player of the Week and our Prep Profile School of the Week, the Archbishop Rummel Raiders, when sportsNOLA TV continues from TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans in Metairie. Saints college football, and of course extensive prep football coverage all the time at sportsNOLA.com. Go there and also read about sportsmanship or the lack thereof in football from this past weekend at every level, prep, college, and pro. Where college football is concerned, the first BCS poll of the year came out on Sunday, and it reflected what most of us thought all along, that LSU is the #1 team in the land. Barely over a very good Alabama team, but all things considered, because of the schedule, the LSU Tigers are #1. Speaking of LSU, easy win at Tennessee. Morris Claiborne gets it started. Brian, again, their defense set the tone in this game.
Absolutely. They continue to be the bread and butter of this team, and as long as they stay intact, Kenny, I don't see it changing.
From an offensive perspective, Chuck, obviously there's a nice slant. Get you into the end zone to Reuben Randall. Nice job by Garrett Lee.
I would think you got to just be a big fan of Wares and that offensive line. They're pounding on people and beating on people, and it's making downfield blocks on the screens and the quick tosses. They really look good.
Yeah, Ware scoring on a touchdown pass as well. And again, Torrance, the defense just outstanding for LSU. You're just not going to do any business in their deep secondary, are you?
No. These guys with the pass rush they're getting and with the talent they have back there in the backfield with these cornerbacks and safeties they have, it's not much for you to do. Very fast team. It's just not much for you to do.
Nice play fake there by Lee, and there's a juggle by Peterson. If he catches it clean, he's in the end zone, does not. But all good things come to a good end anyway. Spencer Ware bangs it in, and LSU, despite having a banged-up offensive line, dominating up front, taking total control of the game, and winning this game. And then Jordan Jefferson, nice run over the top. That's what he brings to this team. He rushed for 73 yards, LSU 38-7 over Tennessee. And LSU getting it done. They just don't turn the ball over. They've only turned it over 3 times all year long. There's that stat again, Torrance. Don't turn it over, you win.
Don't turn it over and get turnovers. It's about that margin we talk about. It's one thing to get turnovers, but it's another thing when you're not turning it over. So they're winning the games right now.
Well, the BCS standings, as we mentioned, reflect LSU at the top. There they are. Just 3 percentage points over Alabama, with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State 3rd and 4th, Boise State 5th. I think you go down to Wisconsin, and I think all 6 of those teams certainly are in the mix. But it's pretty obvious, Brian. It comes down to LSU, Alabama, and Oklahoma State. They play each other, and whoever wins those games could very well play for the national championship.
Yeah, it's almost the BCS semifinals here.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, you've got Alabama, LSU playing in 2 weeks, Oklahoma State playing at the end of the regular season, and probably those 2 winners advance.
As for Tulane, really not much to talk about. Another dismal loss, this time 44-7 at the hands of UTEP. And of course the Miners, not a particularly skilled team. Tulane 2-5 now. They got Memphis for homecoming coming in. And Torrance, this is just a tough state of affairs for Tulane. Just not playing well in any capacity.
They're not getting it done, and that magic number that we've been looking for them to make to get to a bowl game is slipping away. They're going to have to pick it up.
Not a very pretty picture for the Green Wave. Of course, we talk about high school sports as well, and we always do so in a fashion where we honor a player on a weekly basis and we spotlight a team on a weekly basis. Our Prep Player of the Week for week number 7 of the prep football season is Damian Williams. That's Williams, the junior quarterback at Archbishop Rummel. And against West Jefferson, 176 yards rushing yards and a touchdown, 6 of 8 passing, 152 yards, and 3 touchdowns for the very talented dual threat quarterback of the Raiders, Damian Williams, at 6 feet, 205 pounds. So congratulations to Damian Williams, our sportsNOLAtv Prep Player of the Week. Speaking of Damian Williams, he happens to play for our spotlight team this week, the Archbishop Rummel Raiders of Coach Jay Roth, who are always a deep threat in the state playoffs, and that figures to be the case again this year, with Rummel off to a 6-0 start and ranked in the top 10 in the state. Emmanuel Peppis profiles the Rummel Raiders.
Coach Jay Roth, last year, of course, this is where pretty much the slide began after you started 3-0 and really the bottom fell out. But this year, really holding sway as far as the midpoint of the season. How do you feel as far as the senior leadership being able to keep the ship really steady right now?
Well, I saw a little glimpse of the senior leadership right away in January. I knew we had something special. Over the summer, they've been a group that's bonded real well, work hard, they've overcome a little adversity with some injuries. So far, they've done well. I mean, they're 5-0, and they're getting ready to get in the meat of the district schedule right now.
And Cyril Grayson, of course, an explosive player. You've moved him from defensive back to wide receiver. Talk about how you feel he's transitioned into the position.
Well, Cyril gives that deep threat at any time. He might only touch the ball once a game, but he might go the distance. I mean, I think he's averaging close to 16 yards a carry. Maybe 2/3 of his receptions for touchdowns. So Cyril gives us something we haven't had in a long time to roll, and that's some speed on the outside.
And of course, an offense that's very balanced and very experienced at key positions, not only with an experienced and improving quarterback in Damian Williams, but a guy in J.J. Brown at running back who's a senior starter and a lot more powerful than maybe his frame would suggest, wouldn't it?
J.J. continues to amaze me and a lot of other people because if you look at him, he's just a man of small stature, but he is a very, very strong running back and can make some people miss and run through tackles.
And even through key injuries on your defense in the past couple of weeks, how do you feel that they performed even in the face of adversity through those injuries?
Great job. I mean, they've gotten turnovers for us. They've tackled well in space. They've allowed offensively for us to get some points on the board early, but we've started 5 sophomores at times during the year on defense, so we're still a very young defense.
It doesn't get much easier for the Raiders down the stretch of the regular season with opponents such as Jesuit, Brother Martin, and a much improved Chalmette still left on the schedule. But with the pieces in place, the Raiders are looking for a return to the playoffs after just a 1-year absence. For sportsNOLAtv, I'm Emmanuel Peppers.
Well, the Rumble Raiders are certainly a team that has to be contended with, not only undefeated in the top 10, seemingly getting better on a weekly basis. And it's no surprise with Jay Roth, who's done it for 17 years and has won over 78% of his games. Chuck, I don't care what level you're playing at, when you win nearly 80% of your games over 17 years, that's pretty special.
That is very special, and it's just a tribute to him and his coaching staff and his ability to keep the kids interested in the program. We were talking about seemingly there's not as much interest in high school athletics as there used to be in the student body.
Well, certainly that's one of the programs to watch moving forward, and we're happy to be able to bring you our Prep Spotlight feature school each and every week. We're also happy to bring you the Marvelous Marvel Performance Minute. It's time for the Marvelous Marvin LeBlanc Performance Systems Leadership Minute. Marvin LeBlanc is a sales and leadership instructor who has helped a small businessman sell more, lead better, and enjoy life. Without further ado, here's Marvin.
Thank you, Kenny. Chuck, it's good to see you. And one of the things we always do is we have a leadership lesson. And today's leadership lesson, well, let's go and talk about defeat. But let's talk about defeat in a different way. Memorize this statement. Defeat is a temporary condition. And what we're talking about is if two people are in the middle of the street and they're in the middle of a fight, both of them are bleeding, one gets completely knocked down, and he's almost motionless. Is the fight over? Well, I want you to think about it. The fight's not over unless the guy on the ground decides to stay down, Torrance. And what you're going to see with our beloved Saints is they are going to come off the mat. What we want to memorize today is that persistency is what should be permanent, and defeat should be temporary. For more exciting ideas about overcoming defeat and focusing more on persistency, go grab my blog at marvinleblanc.com. Remember, marvelous performance only happens when you are intentional about that performance. Ken, back to you.
All right, Marvin, thank you very much. And no doubt about it, guys, when you get knocked down, you get back up and you start fighting again, right?
Till a fat lady sings.
I still haven't met her. Good old Kate Smith, God bless her soul.
Yeah, we talked about Tampa
last
last
week. For one, I think.
Wow.
A homecoming queen, I guess.
You're going to take this, right? We'll take the time out here when we return in just a moment. We'll preview the Saints taking on the Indianapolis Colts. A Super Bowl rematch. Teams are a little bit different as we speak, heading into that Sunday night affair. That and more when sportsNOLAtv continues from TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. It's here. It's always Friday at TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Hey, you can always call 887-7788 for more information. Great place to eat, great atmosphere. Come check out TGI Fridays and our friend Ronnie Bouvier here on Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. The Saints don't have time to think much about a tough loss to Tampa Bay. They're right back at it in a primetime showdown with the Indianapolis Colts. And look at that record, guys. Who would have thought we'd see that next to the name Indianapolis Colts? 0-6 series tied overall. And, of course, they're meeting for the first time since that Super Bowl meeting, Brian, and it carries some special character as a result of that. I mean, obviously, this is a game that the Saints have been pointing to.
Absolutely, and it's just a shame that Peyton Manning's not going to be in the game. In fact, I know a friend of mine got married, and they moved their honeymoon back a week so they could attend this game in anticipation of watching Peyton Manning. Well, of course, Peyton's not playing, and they're going to come to the game anyway because they have tickets.
Cancel the wedding? Or?
Yeah, no, the honeymoon. I'm sorry, the honeymoon.
I hear you.
And so anyway, they're going to come to the game anyway.
Chuck, it's a great time for the Saints to get well. 0-6 team in Indianapolis, and the Rams coming in, who are a bad football team as well. Or at least you're playing there.
I think it is a great opportunity, but once again, the offensive line has got to step it up. You got Mathis and Freeney, and that's
Offensive line, offensive line.
Look, they protect Drew
That's where it
Brees,
starts.
and we're talking about Drew Brees
Exactly.
needing to be more effective, and the only way he can be that way is to protect the man.
Torrance, it's particularly important to win these two because then you got the two divisional games, a rematch with Tampa Bay, and then a trip to the Georgia Dome to play the Falcons.
Yeah, these two games coming up are dangerous games, man. You know, you have teams that their back up against the wall. They're looking for a win. They're looking for that first win, and they're not going to lay down. This is the NFL. It's a small margin between winning and losing teams, and I think we're going to have to come out and play, and I think we're definitely going to have to run the ball.
Well, you win all four of these, you're still in the hunt for best record in the NFC, although that is unlikely to happen with the way the Packers are playing and with the schedule that they have. If you win 3 of the 4, Brian, you're in pretty good shape to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, if you would say that would make them what at that point, 7-2 after 9 games, right?
7-3.
7-3. That's right, 7-3. Yeah, I think most people would take that. 8-2 certainly would be better, but that'll keep you in the hunt. That'll keep you in the hunt.
You're going to get there, though, Chuck. You need to be more consistent on defense.
We've talked about it all show long. We've got to get some push up the middle and get better on the jams and the underneath coverage.
And tackling. We're not tackling very
not
well.
tackling very well.
I think we missed a couple. We had a tackle right in the hole, one-on-one, and the guy gives a little move and he's gone.
Well, I'm going to tackle all 3 of you because our time's expired. Brian, as always, a pleasure.
Thanks,
Chuck,
Kenny.
thank you for being with us. It's been great having you.
Great to be here.
And
Thank you.
Torrance, as always, buddy.
Yes. Ingram, I'm sorry I choked on your name, man. I will make it up to you. I will give you all the love next week.
Sean
All right.
is still the best coach in the world.
All right, for the 3 Musketeers, for our entire crew, and for all of our good and great friends at TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans in Metairie, I'm Ken Trahan, reminding you to go to sportsNOLA.com and saying thank you for joining us and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. We are rounding third and heading home. So long.